This FIFA World Cup finals between Argentina and Spain will be the greatest FIFA World Cup finals of all time because all football fans are going to be focused on the game. Nobody cares who wins the FIFA World Cup at the end of the day. If Spain win the FIFA World Cup, Barcelona fans, Real Madrid fans, they are all going to join together and are going to celebrate Spain.
A photograph. Barcelona, 2007. A 20-year-old with the ball glued to his foot is holding a baby for a charity calendar nobody remembers commissioning. Nobody in that room thinks the picture matters. It goes in a drawer for 17 years. Then, in 2026, the baby and the 20-year-old walk out at opposite ends of a World Cup final. This is Ball Archive. Here's how that happened. Every rivalry needs an origin, and this one starts in the very first World Cup ever played. Uruguay, 1930. Argentina reached the final, lead it and lose it. The first team in history to make it that far and still walk away empty. It's a wound that never really closes.
Oh my God's plan. Yes, that is a 20-year-old Leo Messi, and this is a baby Yamal. Who knew that being bathed by the goat will thus then make you a goat in your own right?
Argentina are so offended by the result that they barely bother showing up to the next tournament. And then they vanish from the World Cup altogether for over 2 decades. When they finally come back in 1958, Czechoslovakia beats them 6-1, and the team returns home to a welcome of thrown coins instead of applause. Argentina, from the very beginning, does not do quiet disappointment. It does spectacle, one way or another. Spain's early story is quieter, but no less bruising. They show up in 1934, get dragged into a brutal replay against Italy that leaves their goalkeeper barely able to stand, and go home. They skip the next tournament for reasons that have nothing to do with football. The country is tearing itself apart at the time, and there's no room left for a game. When they return in 1950, something briefly clicks. A 4th-place finish, a famous win over England, and then the door slams shut again. For the next 60 years, Spain will be Europe's most talented team at losing early. They even have a nickname for the heartbreak, La Furia Roja, all fury, no trophy. It becomes less a nickname than a running diagnosis, repeated so often that Spanish fans start saying it before a tournament even begins, like a preemptive apology.
Two nations, then, entering the World Cup era from completely opposite directions. One that treats every disappointment as a national wound to be avenged, and one that quietly resigns itself to being brilliant and unlucky.
I mean, the older you get, the slower you get, but the guy is a genius. He doesn't need his body. He just needs to think. He just have to manipulate everybody else and put himself in those situations he needs to be.
Tournament after tournament. Neither has any idea they're building towards the same Sunday, 96 years later, in a stadium that doesn't exist yet, in a country neither of them will visit for decades.
Here's the strange part. These two nations, with all their history, have played exactly one World Cup match against each other. Ever. Birmingham, 1966. A group stage night nobody outside the stadium cared much about, in front of a crowd that mostly wanted to see West Germany play somewhere else. It finishes 2-1 to Argentina. That's it. That's the entire competitive history between these two countries at a World Cup until 2026. Both teams leave that tournament angry. Argentina's captain gets sent off in the quarterfinal against England, under circumstances so chaotic he has to be escorted from the pitch by police. The referee and the captain don't even share a language, and neither can understand what's actually being argued about. Argentina still refers to that match 6 decades later as the robbery of the century. It's such a mess, in fact, that football introduces yellow and red cards not long after, partly so no referee ever has to send a man off through guesswork again. Spain, for their part, don't qualify again for 12 years. 2 entire World Cups skipped, not by choice this time, but by simply failing to get there. 60 years of silence. 1 match, 3 goals. 2 nations that keep circling the same tournament without ever landing in the same group again. And then nothing more. Until New York. While the countries stay apart, their World Cup stories keep diverging in opposite directions. Argentina wins on home soil in 1978, a tournament forever tangled up with the politics of the moment, the celebration in the streets and the darker things happening in the same city at the same time sit uneasily next to each other in every account of that summer. Then 1986 arrives,
and one player turns a whole World Cup into a personal legend, a hand that shouldn't have counted, and a run through half a team's defense, 4 minutes apart, in the very same match.
And even when Spain needed fresh legs, they were able to bring on players like Pedri, players like Mikel Merino, just to take this thing out of the game and see it through. That is the depth of this Spain team. They didn't sit back and desperately hold on, they controlled the game. They kept the ball, they slowed everything down and limited France to almost nothing. Every run was tracked, every space was closed, every dangerous moment was killed before it could even begin.
It's still argued about, debated, replayed, and celebrated all at once. Almost 40 years later, Argentina reach another final in 1990 and lose it in the closing minutes on a penalty, their captain in tears on the pitch as the final whistle goes. Spain, meanwhile, keeps producing brilliant football and nothing to show for it. They host the tournament themselves in 1982 and get eliminated in the second group stage, at home, in front of everyone who mattered. In 1994, a broken nose in the penalty box goes completely unpunished by the referee and knocks them out of the tournament. In 2002, playing a co-host nation, they have 2 goals disallowed and go out on penalties anyway. In 1986, one of their own players scores 4 goals in a single afternoon, a genuinely historic individual performance, and Spain still goes out the very next round, also on penalties. Across 60 years, that's the pattern on repeat. Brilliance in short, dazzling bursts, followed by a coin flip that never once lands their way. Now here's where the story that becomes 2026 actually starts, and it starts in the most unremarkable way possible. June 2006, an 18-year-old substitute comes off the bench for Argentina against Serbia and Montenegro. Argentina wins big. That substitute's name is Lionel Messi, and it's his World Cup debut. A year later, a small newspaper and a children's charity run a raffle in a working-class Catalan town outside Barcelona. The prize is a spot in a photo shoot with the local football club. A family wins it. They'd had a hard time before their son was born, and 2 neighbors had helped them through it, so they named the boy after them. One name meaning trustworthy, the other meaning beauty. Put together, Lamine Yamal. At the photo shoot, a 20-year-old Messi ends up holding the baby, smiling for a camera at an event he probably forgets about by the following week.
19 years ago, they shared a photo shoot, and this Sunday, they'll share a World Cup final. Back in 2007, Lionel Messi took part in a charity photo shoot with a baby named Lamine Yamal. No one could ever imagine that nearly 2 decades later, that same baby would become one of the biggest stars in world soccer.
Nobody plans it. Nobody thinks about it again for 17 years, until the photo resurfaces online in 2024, right as the kid in it wins a European championship of his own. And suddenly, a forgotten charity snapshot becomes one of the most shared images in the sport. The boy grows up on the streets of a working-class neighborhood called Rocafunda, learning the game on concrete rather than grass. His father is Moroccan, his mother is from Equatorial Guinea, and the mix of backgrounds becomes part of his story almost as much as his footwork does. He's scouted at 6 years old, debuts for Barcelona's first team at 15, and plays for Spain's senior side at 16.
When he scores, he makes a hand signal with the last 3 digits of his home postcode, the single most locally specific goal celebration in the sport, aimed at maybe 4 streets worth of people who will actually understand it. 2 decades earlier, nobody could have staged that photograph on purpose, and nobody tried to. And yet here it is, sitting quietly forgotten, waiting patiently for a World Cup final to come along and explain exactly why it mattered.
July 2010, Johannesburg. Spain wins their first World Cup, and they win it in the strangest possible way for a team famous for style. They score 8 goals across the entire tournament, the fewest of any champion in the competition's history. They lose their opening match, then win every single knockout game by exactly 1 goal. 60 years of heartbreak ends not with fireworks, but with a lockdown defense, a suffocating midfield, and 1 moment of magic deep into extra time. It's not the beautiful game winning ugly, it's the ugly game winning, with beauty applied afterward as decoration for the highlight reel. 4 years later, the wheels come off completely. The defending champions open the following World Cup and get taken apart 5-1 by the Netherlands, a single diving header becoming the signature image of the collapse. Spain go out in the group stage entirely. Total time spent as reigning world champions before public humiliation, 1 match, 90 minutes, gone. Messi's story runs on a parallel, equally painful track. He reaches the 2014 final and loses it in extra time to a single German goal. then has to walk up and collect the tournament's Best Player award minutes later. A photo of him barely glancing at the trophy on his way past becomes almost as famous as the goal that beat him. 2018 is worse for both sides. Spain go out to host nation Russia on penalties, and Argentina get dismantled by France in a wide-open end-to-end defeat.
This FIFA World Cup finals has to be the greatest of all time. Now, when you look at the way these two teams played from the group stage, the knockout rounds, before getting here, broski, you'll be shocked. Spain were not the best team, but tactically, they were the best team in this competition.
The same question follows Messi around for years afterward, repeated in every interview and every retrospective. Can he actually ever win the thing? Or is he destined to be remembered as the best player never to lift it? Then, December 2022. Argentina beat France on penalties in one of the most chaotic, back-and-forth finals ever played. And Messi finally lifts the trophy the entire argument was always secretly about. Spain, at that same tournament, get eliminated by Morocco in the round of 16. Over 1,000 passes completed across the match, and almost nothing to show for any of them. By the end of 2022, the scoreboard reads plainly: Messi has everything a career in football can offer. Spain has an impressive passing statistic and an early flight home.
18 months later, at the 2024 European Championship, a 16-year-old becomes the youngest player and youngest goal scorer in that tournament's history, and Spain wins the whole thing. He picks up the Young Player of the Tournament award the day after his 17th birthday, still looking like he could be somebody's kid brother tagging along with the senior squad. By the following year, he's the youngest player ever nominated for the sport's biggest individual prize, and he finishes as runner-up for it at 18 years old. His social media following alone now dwarfs some of the biggest names across other global sports combined, a level of attention normally reserved for players a decade older with a decade more silverware. There was actually supposed to be a preview of all this. A friendly between Argentina and Spain was arranged for early 2026. Champions of South America against champions of Europe. Messi against Yamal in a competitive shirt for the very first time. Decades after that one accidental photograph, it got cancelled. Regional conflict first, then a stadium dispute, then just silence. And eventually nobody talked about it again. Football doesn't really do dress rehearsals. It waited, and it saved the meeting for something considerably bigger than a friendly in the spring.
June 2026, Kansas City. Argentina opened their title defense, and Messi scores a hat trick. 20 years to the day since that first World Cup appearance off the bench. A coincidence so precise it barely feels believable. At 38 years old, he becomes the oldest player ever to score a World Cup hat trick. And those 3 goals pull him level with the tournament's all-time scoring record, a mark that had stood for over a decade. Days later, he adds 2 more against Austria to break the record outright, and then comes off the bench against Jordan to score yet again. 7 straight World Cup matches with a goal in each one, a streak nobody in the history of the competition has ever managed. 9 points from 3 matches, 6 Messi goals inside them, and Argentina start to look less like a contender and more like a team simply waiting out the calendar until the final. Spain starts shakier than expected, held scoreless by a tiny island nation making its very first World Cup appearance, a result that sends an entire country scrambling to check the group table. They regroup fast, beat Saudi Arabia comfortably, and Yamal gets his first World Cup goal in that match, dropping to his knees in celebration like he's been waiting his whole career for exactly that moment. After that opener, though, he goes quiet in front of goal for match after match. A single goal in 7 games for a player being asked to shoulder the weight of an entire nation's expectations.
Ask him about it before the semi-final and he shrugs it off entirely. He's not worried about scoring, he says, because Spain just keeps winning regardless. And at 19 years old, that seems to be the only statistic he actually cares about. From there, the 2 teams become mirror opposites of each other. Argentina keeps finding late, nervy, dramatic wins. Extra time against that same small debutante nation in the knockout rounds. Comeback victories that arrive in the final 10 minutes. A semi-final against England where there are 5 minutes left on the clock and somehow score twice in stoppage time to steal the win. 7 matches, 7 wins. More goals scored than any other team in the tournament, and a huge share of the damage arriving after the 75th minute. Argentina don't overwhelm teams from the opening whistle. They let the clock itself become the opponent and wait for it to work in their favor. Spain does the exact opposite. They shut teams down early and simply never let go. 3 separate wins over top 10 ranked opposition.
A semi-final victory built on a penalty that Yamal wins for himself, and one single goal conceded across the entire tournament. 6 clean sheets in 7 matches. The best defensive World Cup run any team has ever assembled. Full stop.
New Jersey, kickoff. 19 goals scored against, a single goal conceded. That's the entire gap between these two teams as they walk out onto the pitch on Sunday. Spain will have the ball for most of the match. That part isn't really a guess, it's just how they play. Control the midfield, starve the game of clean chances, let Yamal drag defenders out of position on the right wing, and trust somebody else to punish whatever space he leaves behind. Rodri, sitting deep in front of the back line, will try to do to Argentina's midfield exactly what he did to France's a few weeks earlier, slowly, patiently strangling it out of the match. Argentina will let them have the ball. That's the trap they've set all tournament long, whether by design or by nature. Every team that's played them so far has led at some point in the second half of the match. Every single one of them is now home, watching the final from a couch somewhere. Argentina wins in the last 10 minutes, over and over again, because they make you believe the game is already decided before they quietly take it away from you when you're not looking anymore. So the real question walking into this final isn't really who's better on paper. It's whether the best defense this tournament has ever produced can hold its exact shape for a full 90 minutes against a 39-year-old who has built an entire career, an entire legacy, out of waiting patiently for exactly one mistake.
If Argentina win, they become the first nation to defend a World Cup title in over 60 years, and Messi leaves the tournament as its all-time leading scorer and its all-time leading assist provider, both records set in the very same summer, at an age when most players have long since retired. If Spain win instead, it's their second World Cup title, and Yamal becomes something the sport has genuinely never produced before. No player in history has won both a World Cup and a European Championship before turning 20 years old. Nobody has ever even come close to that particular double. And somewhere in the middle of all of it sits a photograph nobody staged, taken at a charity shoot back in 2007, of a future World Cup winner holding the baby who would one day try to take his crown away from him. 60 years of near silence between two nations. One photograph nobody meant to take seriously. One match on one Sunday to finally decide what all of it was actually about.